So far, we've been using the pixel as the measurement unit for all the values we have declared. But in modern design, developers don't use the pixel directly. Rather, we use the relative unit that the browser finally converts to the pixel. Now, the question is how the relative unit map to the browser's native measurement unit, which is the pixel. For text content, there is a default value specified by the browser for example, font size, if the developer does not declare one. The value is 16 pixel. That's the default font size specified by the browser for everything text. So if I have a paragraph somewhere in my document and I don't declare any value for its font size, the browser will apply a font size of 16 pixels to that paragraph. But what happens when I declare a value for it and use a unit other than the pixel, like rem, or say percentage, which is technically not a unit though? That's where the calculation comes in. The browser has to figure out what that other unit means in relation to the pixel, its native unit. Let's see this in action. Back in my index.html file, as you can see now, I've actually commented out the content we had in the previous section to provide for a clean slate. So I have a heading 1 and a paragraph. Now, let's go back to the main.scss. Again, I've commented out everything except the variables at the top. Though I still have my hero class attached to the header. So again, I still want to have my content at the center. So let's say hero and give it back what we had before. Now, this heading 1 and paragraph, I don't want to apply any font size to them so that we can see what the browser applies. With my work saved, let's get to the browser and check out things. Here is what I have. This is my heading 1 and this is the paragraph. Let me right click and choose inspect. If I look at my HTML, this is my heading 1 and this is the paragraph. First, the heading 1. And I come down to start here. You see what happened, that I have a font size of 2M. Though I didn't specify anything like font size, but I have a font size of 2M here. But let's look at what's called the computed value, which we will look at in detail later on. But for now, just follow along. I have font size, which is 32 pixel. Now, this is 32 pixel. And if I drill down a little bit, you see I still have my 2M as the font size. And so what this means now is that this 2M is equivalent to 32 pixel. And if you do the mathematics, this is not a big mathematics. If you divide 32 by 2, that gives you 16, which means that 1M will mean 16 pixel in this case. And I didn't declare any of this. These are default values that the browser specifies. So it means that if I have an H1 in my document and I do not provide any value for it, the browser applies 2M. But this 2M is equivalent to 32 pixel, which in turn means that 1M is equals to 16 pixel. And that was what I told you initially, that every text content in your page has a default value of 16 pixel. It is for hierarchical purposes that the browser doubles that value and make it 32 for H1. And as we're going to see later on, when I have H2, it won't be 2M, it will be something less than that. When I have H3, it will be something less than that, and so on and so forth. So, but one takeaway here is that the default font size for a text content, if I do not provide one, is 16 pixel. Now, you may ask, where is 16 pixel here? That I can't actually find 16 pixel where you write. We can't see 16 pixel here, but if I further dig down and I go to the menu here, and I come to setting, and here performance, and or sorry, appearance, and I come down to say font size here, you see customize fonts. And when you look at it, this is font size. If I hover over this line, you see this dot, that's the default font size for text, and that is 16 pixels. So here now, I can bump it up and say 26. You see how the text is increasing. So this is where the font size of 16 is configured in your browser. So someone can come here now and alter this default 16 pixel for his own convenience. So this is where you find that configuration. So let me take it back to the 16 pixel it was. The default size of 16 pixel is equivalent to 1M, or I should say 1M is equivalent to 16 pixel. Let's further dig, and let's say I add heading 2 here for the purpose of learning. Heading 2, and go to my browser, refresh. Now you can see that even without checking anything, the heading 2 is smaller compared to the heading 1. And again, if I select it, this is the heading 2. You notice that the font size is 1.5M. So that is 0.5M less than the heading 1. If you go to the computed, again, you see that that is now 24 pixels. And that makes sense if you understand a bit of mathematics. Okay, so this will be equals to 1.5 times 16. Let's check that out. Times 16, that gives me 24. And that's how the value of 24 was arrived at here for the H2. If you do the same thing for H3, let me go again and add another heading. Heading 3. Save. Go back to my browser. Now you can see again that even visually, you can see it is smaller compared to heading 2 and 1. And again, if I check my DOM, and this heading 3, look at the font size. That in terms of M, it is 1.17M, and the equivalent is 18.72 pixels. And again, if you do the mathematics, this will be 1.17 times 16, and that gives you 18.72. So you see how these values are calculated. So 1 rem or 1 m means 16 pixels. So whatever values you declare in terms of m or rem in your document will ultimately find its way back to pixel. Now, let's say, for example, I want to declare a value for it. So let me go to my main.scss. And let me just put it in here. And I want this heading 1 to have a font size of 4M. Now let me save and check that out. This is 4M. But let's look at this 4M in terms of pixel. This is my heading 1. And you see 4M. That is what I declare. Or first, let me go to style. You see that I declare 4Ms. This is the author declaration 4M, what the author declare. And you can see that it has overwritten the default of 2M. You look at the line that crosses that font size. That's a visual cue there. That means that the default specification of 2M has been overwritten. So this becomes the prevailing font size. And if I go to the computed, you see I have 64 pixels. And of course, if you multiply 4M by 16, that should give you 64. So this is how values are processed. Now, let's look at the other one. That's H2 there. Let's say H2 in that place. And let me use font size of, say, 50%. So you could see things both in terms of rem, m, and percentage. 50%. Let's go and have a look. Now, You see, this is the heading 2. You see how tiny it has become? 50%. That means half of its default value, because this time around, when I say 50% here, 50% here, I'm referring to the document root. That's the specified value in the browser, right? Because here I have not declared any font size for this hero container. This is the container that contains this heading 2, and I didn't declare any font size here. So it means if I'm referring to 50%, the question will be 50% of what? It will be 50% of the parents of this H2. Though on the page, the parent is this hero class, but in this hero class, there is no font size defined. Therefore, the percentage or the parent to which this H2 refers will be the parent of this hero class, which is the document itself. So now let's go back to the browser again. This is the H2 we're talking about. Now, if you look at the size, font size 15%, and you see again it overrides the 1.5 M that is the default. And if I go to the computed now, 15%, and it is 8 pixel, and that makes absolute sense. 8 pixel. Don't forget that the default font size, that is 1 M, is 16 pixel. So if I look at half of 1 M, that will be 16 divided by 2, and that will give me 8. You don't look at it in the sense that, or in that H2 has a default of 1.5 M by default. You look at it in its default font size of 16 pixel. That is, all content, all text content on a page has a default font size of 16 pixel. It is just for hierarchical purposes that we have H1 having a bigger font size and H2 having a next, and H3 and so on and so forth. All text document has that root default font size of 16 pixel. However, because headings are to be visually different from paragraph, it increases this value for headings, and within headings, the value decreases as we move from heading 1 to heading 6.